Welcome to Discovering. It's the second week of deer season. We'll take a look at some nice bucks and some tasty ways to prepare venison. And I talked with Tim Olsen for another In the Woods story.
These wolves are snapping their chops and growling at me and snarling.
Stay where you are. It's Monday night and time for Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forest thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill. The eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
Last Wednesday afternoon, I left camp and headed for Belgiumtown. Things were a bit different this year for their annual big buck event, but it didn't prevent hunters from stopping in to have their deer weighed and sized up for the contest.
We're up here at Belgiumtown for our 4th annual big buck event, successful sportsman sharing stories, as we like to call it. We knew there was going to be some hurdles this year with the COVID implications, so we had to work a little bit to figure out exactly what we wanted to do, and we came up with this idea of spacing out the registration a little bit, letting people come in during the day, especially those concerned with the virus itself. So we're not having our big gathering here tonight for the award ceremony, but we're still awarding a bunch of great prizes. The same sponsors stepped up for us again: B&J Taxidermy, Talbot Lumber, SMC Corporation, the marketing here in Stevenson, Savinicki Contractors. We just a bunch of great sponsors stepping up, a bunch of great prizes. So
I was in the blind, and my uncle, who is about a couple yards, like 100 yards away from us, he texts and he says that some deer are coming. And we looked and we didn't see anything, but about 10 minutes after that text, this thing walks in, and Dad's like, "Holy crap, Brady, grab your rifle. You gotta shoot this thing." So I go, I take the shot, and Dad tells me that I got a good shot. So then, kind of after about 10 minutes, we go back to camp, tell everyone, and then we wait for all the guys to get back to camp and meet up with us. And then we go out and go look for it, and then finally we kind of found this in the swamp, and myself, I was just shaking and had butterflies, and I was kind of just speechless once I saw that I got a good shot and I killed it. Everyone in camp was very proud of me. This is my first buck, and we celebrated. All the guys had a couple beers and had a Mountain Dew, because I'm not allowed to have Mountain Dews that much, so it was my celebrating drink.
First of all, we were out hunting. My grandpa's blind, and I had to go to the bathroom, and my dad's like, "Okay, but if anything comes out," he's like, "I'm shooting it." So I come back, so I go to the bathroom, I come back, and then she's like, yeah, shut the door. And then he turns to his left, and of course in the lane with it looks like a tornado because it's been so windy, there's a big buck, and he goes, "Reese, get in here, there's a big buck." I'm like, okay. I'm like, where? So I look over there, and then he already has the rifle out the window, and he's sitting in the hot seat. I'm leaning over him, trying to get a good shot at this buck. And then he's like, "Okay, shoot it." Just shakes like a big, majestic dog. And I shoot it. We both agreed it was a rush shot. So it runs, flaps down in the next lane, flaps around, it's down. So we wait about 30 minutes. We go out there. We walk out there. It's really wet out, and we're like speechless. We're not even talking through this whole time. I poke it, and we're like, "Yep, it's dead." He goes, I'm really proud of you. I'm like, thanks. And it's like all the words we said. We took a couple of pictures, and then we went back to camp, and that was pretty much it.
More looking shortly. Now, some cooking.
If you hunt deer, I'm guessing you've got some venison steaks tucked away in your freezer. Here's a little different way to cook them that you just might want to add to your recipe list.
Start out with a little oil in a pan. Grate up some ginger, or you could use some ground ginger in the powdered form, your call. Gotta have garlic. 3 is good. 4 is better. Stir that for about a minute. Add in a half a cup of soy sauce. And a 1/4 cup of water. Now a half cup of brown sugar. Let that boil for 3 to 5 minutes till it's slightly thickened. It's always a good idea to stay hydrated. Now, time for the steaks. You'll need about 1/3 of a cup of cornstarch. It helps tenderize the venison and gives it a bit of a crust. That's about 1 pound of venison backstrap steaks. The rest, well, it kind of explains itself.
I didn't see a whole lot in the morning, just a couple does, little fork, and then one real tall fork. Nothing worth shooting in the morning right away. And then I took a nap. I figured, 8 o'clock, nothing's gonna come out a whole lot. But well, my dad and my sister hunt just across the field. It's about a 40 wide. He texts me, he's like, what are you doing, not shooting? I'm like, shooting at what? I didn't see nothing. He's like, there's a huge buck right in front of you. Well, he's sitting in the corner of my blind so I can't see him, and I look around and I see just massive. I'm like, so I open up the window real quick and I get the gun out and he moves the other side of my blind, so I open up the other window quick and I got my sight on him, I'm shaking, I'm like, man, I ain't gonna get a shot. And then I finally calmed down enough to get a shot at him, and then he turns right before I pull the trigger, runs into the woods. I'm like, well, I'm not letting you go if you come out again. I see a doe come out and she's just sitting, waiting, looking in the woods. I'm like, something's coming back out. And I see him run back out and he's a little bit closer to my sister and my dad, so I'm kind of waiting for her to shoot. She said she went to pull the trigger and the safety was still on. Then I'm waiting. So I pull the trigger and I shoot it, and I seen him jump up and I had it reloaded, ready to go again. And then he started walking towards me and he walked about 15 yards and laid down. He didn't move anymore after that. Apparently my sister almost shot him the same time I did. I measured it at 17 and a half. I think God had it a little bit wider. And he weighed 172 pounds dressed this morning. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it.
Give me the scoop.
I'm Hunter Cordish. I shot this tonight at my house and I shot it in a blind we hadn't had a camera at, so we didn't know what was going on there, really. We had no idea that he was back here, so then we dropped a screwdriver making a noise, quite a loud noise. All the little deer came out of there, and then the big one came in along with one that's been sticking around since the first day I was hunting, basically. And then we shot it, then we went looking for it, left a good trail of blood, so we found it easy. And then it didn't run far, shot a good shot on it, so, and then he's all here. Yep.
Well, the scoop is it was noon on opening day. I had just got back in my blind. We had done some tracking on a different deer that somebody had shot. I have a single lane that's 365 yards long. Got settled in. It was 11:48, and he came out at exactly noon. Anybody that hunts lanes knows what it's like. You got about 2 seconds to get on the gun, make a decision, yes, no, maybe, and get on it and squeeze the trigger. And that's pretty much all it was. And about 2 minutes later, he went back across, but head down, tail down, kind of scooted across. I'm thinking, that's not, he wasn't bounding. So I'm thinking that he when he came back across the lane, he was probably the end of it for him. And an 8-pointer came. It was kind of bird dogging his trail and was right there. And funny story, that 8-pointer was just getting off to the lane, and he must have moved maybe right when he was dying. And that 8-pointer, just you ever seen a cat do it? A cat jumps up in the air. He jumped like 5 feet in the air and 4 feet back about that fast. Waited about 2 hours, which is kind of torture when you're sitting in the blind when you think you got something laying. And my son Chad and I, we walked down there, and it was only 30 yards off the lane. One year that one side of the road seems to have more activity than the other, and it all depends what side of the road the wolves are on. That's the day I saw him. I saw 8 deer and 5 were bucks. There was like 6 guys on the other side of the road we talked to, and I think between them they saw 3 does and 1 spike, and I think a small 8. If the wolves are over there, that's pretty much it. Everything, all the activities on our side of the road. And I don't know why the road is a divider, but that's the way it seems.
There's no doubt the more time you spend in the woods, the more woods you're going to experience. I was back with Tim Olsen for another This Happened to Me story.
Well, it was October 15th, 2013. It was a Tuesday. I own a lawn and snow business, and I got rained out. And it was going to be an all-day rain, so I decided to drive up to the camp where if it was going to be a light rain, I could still bow hunt. Well, it rained too hard. I couldn't bow hunt. But after it got dark, I'm wondering, geez, what was there? What did I miss tonight? So I jumped on the four-wheeler at 7:45, and I drove out to my spot. But instead of driving my four-wheeler right into my spot, I parked it about 100 yards out and walked in. I got in, checked the camera, swapped memory cards out. I turned to leave, and I'm walking out. And if you're in a cedar swamp in the dark, it all looks the same. And sure enough, I took a wrong turn. But I didn't know this at the time. So I'm walking along the trail, which I think is my way out, and my headlamp catches 3 wolves out in front of me laying down and eating on a deer, a fresh-killed deer. And as soon as my light hit them three wolves, a white one on the left, a black one in the middle, and a calico mixed colored on the right. They stood up, started walking toward me. My first thought is, oh my God, I'm screwed. So I'm backing up, I'm walking backwards, hollering, waving my arms, throwing sticks at them. I'm picking up sticks and throwing at them. And if you're in a cedar swamp, there aren't many branches fall off a cedar swamp, so there weren't many sticks. But the big black wolf, he kept trying to get to the side of me, and I was thinking that if he got around me and I had wolves on each side, that wouldn't be a good outcome. My biggest worry also was, while I was walking backwards, if I would trip over a log and fall down. So I was making sure that I was staying on my feet. Then my mind starts working. I'm thinking, nobody knows where I'm at. Nobody knows I'm in the middle of this woods right now. So I grabbed my phone out and I called my brother. I'm like, Tommy, you won't believe what's going on. I got these wolves after me right now. I'm back here by my bow stand. And we weren't having a conversation. He maybe thought we were, but I didn't even answer anything that he was asking me, but he kind of lended me support there. And I ended up just kept backing out of the woods, backing out, and these wolves are snapping their chops and growling at me and snarling. And they ended up pushing me right out to my four-wheeler. I got to my four-wheeler, I pulled the choke up, and I hit start, and that thing snapped right off the bat, and I start revving the bike. When I turned around, there were no wolves around. I don't even know when they left me, but I got out of there. And I drove away and stopped about 100 yards away, and I ended up called 911 because I wanted them to pinpoint my area where I was at so that the DNR could pinpoint that location. So I just was lucky to get out of there, really. Pretty cool experience for me looking back. It wasn't so cool at the time, but that's just one of the cool things that can happen to you when you're out in the woods.
Living in the UP carries with it many traits. One of the most common for many of us is we are do-it-yourselfers, and I'm certainly no exception. Additionally, I like to cook. At least cook what I catch, or maybe I just like to eat what I catch. Either way, this time of year, that means venison. And no camp table, football party, or shindig of any kind is complete without a stick or two of venison sausage. So when I want venison sausage, I make it myself. For a couple of reasons. One, it's mine. I make it myself and I make it the way I like it. Two, it's just so easy to do. I grind most of my venison, mix it with pork, and throw it in the freezer. When I want chili or some burgers or a meatloaf, I thaw it out, and in no time it's dinner. Pretty much the same for the sausage I make. I thaw out a pound or two of my ground venison pork mixture, add in my sausage seasoning, and mix it up. I like to roll it up, wrap it in plastic wrap, and throw it in the fridge overnight. This gives the seasoning time to penetrate the meat and the proteins a chance to firmly set around the fat. The next day it's into the oven or the smoker. It's easier than making meatloaf. I like to time it out so that it's done just in time for the party. It's great any way you make it, but it's sure hard to beat fresh. And in true UP do-it-yourselfer fashion, I came up with my own line of seasonings. Made especially for UP venison, of course.
Today, 2 o'clock, 5 does came out, 2 does came out, the exact same spot I shot my 6-pointer. The 2 does sniffed the ground, looked up at the sky, and continued on their way. And then 4 o'clock, he came out the exact same spot where the 2 does, and I had shot that 6-pointer the night before. I did not think that this is what it was when I got up to him. Very grateful that he showed up. I had shot a 10-pointer in 2016 that have the same curvatures where the horn base is. Obviously this is way bigger than my 10-pointer, spread-wise and mass-wise. It's gonna be my first head mount.
$300.